and good afternoon. You're watching the newsroom on ET Now. Let's take a look at what the equity markets are up to. And we have rebound from the day's low point, no doubt, but just roughly at about 11,250 is where we are stabilizing at, and the Sensex is at 38,094. So a 0.25% of gains for the Nifty, while the Sensex is rallying with a margin of outperformance 0.3% higher. Let's tell you which are the big movers and shakers in trade today then, and of course it's got to be BPCL, as investors of course have been pretty patient with the constant extension in deadlines for the submission of EOIs. We have all sorts of reports as well doing the rounds about how, you know, essentially the Mubadala and the other entities as well have perhaps been wavering in their interest in BPCL. Of course, nothing is confirmed at this point of time. But yeah, the fact that now investors have to wait for even longer for the BPCL divestment is something that's making them impatient. And the stock is plummeting in trade. Remember, this is the fourth time that the bid submission deadline has been extended. It's coming on the back of requests from the interested bidders. Moving on, more stocks in news then, and what else is buzzing? Welspun Corporation, this one's seeing some momentum on the back of order wins by the company to the tune of almost about 1,400 odd crore rupees. Multiple orders have been won by the company of around 147 KMT. These would be executed in India and will help the company's mills to be utilized in a better manner. Advanced enzymes, meantime, and you know, it's not just today, but for the last couple of trading sessions that we have been seeing a spurt come by in this counter. The share price, in fact, has surged almost about 40% in just the last one odd week. It looks like FPIs as well seem to be buying stake. 45% precisely speaking is the kind of hike we've seen in the last 1 week. This after FPIs have hiked stake in the company as well. And more stocks that are buzzing. Adani Greens, this too has seen a rapid rally and it seems to be unabating. In fact, if you look at Adani Greens 1 month chart as well, it started off the beginning of this month at levels of roughly about 500 odd rupees, but currently it's trading at 750 rupees. So almost a 50% rise being witnessed in Adani Greens in trade. And finally, a GMM Pfaudler. Remember, this one, of course, has been the cynosure of all eyes, especially after that OFS news. People, of course, have not been reading into it very well. But again, for the last couple of trading sessions, it's been locked in circuit. And yeah, there was that bulk deal as well, where Plutus Wealth Management purchased 1.65 lakh shares at 3,528 rupees per share. Okay, well, those are the big news makers at this hour. For now, we will take a very short break right here on the show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom on ET Now. First of the very heated debates between the U.S. presidential nominees kicked off earlier, and COVID's response was an important point for sparring. Trump said that many more people would have died if Biden was responsible for the coronavirus response, whereas the former VP Biden called President Trump a liar amidst the argument over healthcare.
Of course we do. He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about.
President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. God. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call them.
The head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slawi?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
he said it's a possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be after that.
When it's generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be delivering.
This is the same man
it's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
By Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically, you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will.
Spoke to the scientists that are in charge. By the way, they will have the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So, Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you.
ET Now editor believes that, while President Trump is attacking Joe Biden personally, as he wants to divert the attention away from economy and the coronavirus in the lead up to the elections.
Trump wanted to run. He wanted to say, look, for 4 years under me, the United States has forged ahead. We have record growth in spurt in GDP because I cut the taxes. Unemployment has fallen to a new low of 3.6%. And he really hoped that this would take him to victory. And then COVID struck. He attempted to deny it. He did crazy things like suggest that, cleaning materials or quinone could be used to solve it. I mean, looking for various desperate measures to try and avoid talking about the negative effect of COVID. At the end of it, I'm afraid, COVID has been disastrous for the economy, has been disastrous for employment. And so many of the claims that he wanted to go forward on have fallen by the wayside. So he's back to the old tricks of racism, Biden being a sleepy fellow, Biden being very leftist, Biden being pro-China. So he's attempting to target Biden to try and take the focus away from the economy and the handling of COVID, which has been so bad in the USA that it has by far the largest number of deaths in the world, more than 200,000. So Biden, on the other hand, has been running a very low-key campaign. In some sense, he has been allowing Trump to destroy himself by making a series of gaffes, a series of excessive statements.
It's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
Ben, he's a fool on it.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Well, moving on to Startup Street. While funding in startups saw a decline for the first 9 months of the year, it definitely did bounce back during July to September, buoyed by the edtech space, which has emerged as an outlier during the pandemic. Chandra Shrikant joins us with the details.
Startup funding is certainly seeing a gradual pickup and recovery after the debilitating impact that COVID-19 had in the April to June quarter. And EdTech clearly seems to be the flavor of the season, with the EdTech unicorns and Sunicorns cornering a majority of funding. So if you look at the headline numbers, this is according to data from Venture Intelligence. For the first 9 months, January to September 2020, startups raised $6.5 billion across 438 deals. This was obviously a decline compared to $7.9 billion that they raised across 594 deals during the same period last year. But there has been a quarter-on-quarter improvement. So between July to September, they raised $2 billion across 137 deals compared to $1.4 billion across 134 deals. Some of the prominent investments during this period include the likes of Byju's, Eruditus, Vedantu, Unacademy. As I said, EdTech is the dominant flavor of the season. Some of the top investors from India include the likes of Sequoia, Accel and Matrix. And the cities that cornered most of the deals are Bengaluru, NCR and Mumbai, in that order. So on the face of it, what this means is that there is a sign of a gradual pickup and recovery after the steep decline in the previous quarter. We of course have to wait and see if this is sustainable considering the overall uncertainty, but some cheer coming in here for startups.
Right. Well, moving on, Google in a blog post made its stance clear on the Play Store billing and how it will come into effect for new app developers from the 20th of January 2021 and existing apps by September 2021. ET now, remember, had first broken to you the plans of Google's Play billing on 22nd September itself. Google Play Store billing has also excluded third-party wallets like Paytm, PhonePe and MobiKwik, and says that the app's impact by the updated billing system is only 3% of all developers. ET Now's Nayantara Rai catches up with Ray Wang, who is the principal analyst and founder with Constellation Research at Silicon Valley. Listen in.
Google's realizing that they haven't done as good of a job monetizing as Apple has. And this is the opportunity, given the number of Google devices and the opportunities as digital monetization is happening. And you're right, it's happening in fitness. It could be your ringtones. It could be a movie that you download. It could be an app that you're into. It could be a social media, application that you're trying to get to. It could even be videos, right? This digital monetization is there, and their marketplaces is really one of their main vehicles for monetization.
But Ray, when they do that, I guess it'll also depend on how strong a country's competition laws are, antitrust laws are. But typically, this would be a massive advantage for Google Pay in India.
It's a big advantage, as given the Android operating system is the predominant operating system in India and a lot of different countries. And so there's a question as to, is that a fair way to get to the marketplace? One of the challenges that have been in this conversation between Apple, iOS versus Google has really been the question as, hey, are consumers getting a good deal? And the question is, would a developer be able to get something to market as quickly as they can in this ecosystem? And so what?
All right, well, let's address the flashes appearing at the bottom of your screens then, and that current account surplus continues into the September quarter as well, and this time around it's increased actually compared to even what it was in the previous quarter. Remember that in the previous quarter, India had recorded the first quarterly current account surplus in I think more than 10 or 11 odd years, but that was at a more modest $0.6 billion versus 19. Okay, this is the April to June current account surplus, which stands at $19.8 billion. That's 3.9% of GDP. When you compare it to last year, it was obviously a current account deficit at 2.1%. This is, of course, largely coming in on the back of course, a sharp contraction, in trading as well, done in trade activity done. Let's go across to ET Now's consulting editor Maithili Bhusnurmad to analyze these numbers for us and how important are they from the scheme of things. Maithili?
Well, yes, this is the first official data that we have from the Reserve Bank of India. Of course, it was known that the first quarter of this fiscal had seen a current account surplus, but now we have the authentic information from the RBI, which says that the first quarter was a current account surplus, almost 4% of GDP, as you mentioned, as compared to a very small trade surplus in the previous quarter of just 0.1% and a deficit of 2.1% in the comparable quarter of the previous fiscal. Of course, this is mostly because of the sharp contraction in the trade deficit, which occurred mainly because of the slowdown in activity. Remember, these were the months which coincided with the lockdown from March. We saw the lockdown, so there was virtually very little imports. Imports contracted very sharply, as a result of which the trade deficit has contracted, and which is why we have a current account surplus. And at the same time, we also saw a huge accretion to the forex reserve, as much as close to 20 billion, 19.8 billion to be precise. But while a lot of people might celebrate a current account surplus, remember, for a developing country, a current account surplus is not good news because it actually reflects an outflow of capital. Developing countries should actually aim for a deficit on the current account, which means since it is a balance of payments which has to balance, a deficit in the current account means a surplus in your capital account. That means you get inflows. So the aim of every country, a developing country, should be to run a moderate current account deficit. So the fact that we have a current account surplus is really not good news for us. It really reflects that the economy is not doing well. It's because the economy has slowed down that we really run a current account surplus. As long as the current account deficit is up to 2.5, that is good news for our country. So I'm afraid this is not really as good as it sounds. Surplus normally sounds like good news, but in the case of a developing country, a current account surplus is not good news. Because a current account surplus means a capital account deficit. It means an outflow of capital.
True. Okay. Well, yeah, India, of course, has that long history of deficit, but that, given the current circumstances, a surplus does not spell good news. Thanks, Maithili, for that. We'll wrap it up on the show. Many thanks for watching.